Everyone, it is a cold and snowy day, not good for motorcycle riding at all, so I thought I'd spend this video and talk about the why and how I got into motorcycle riding. Let's get into it. Well, it all started around 2028, give or take, 3 days before Christmas time. On that day, my boyfriend at the time, we had been dating a year and a half, decided to break up with me. And not in a nice, hey, let's just split kind of way. Part of it was his fault, part of it was mine. I won't lie. The breakup was so hard, I felt like I had lost not just him as a friend, but a whole group I was hanging out with as well. So, safe to say, I was going through a really, really bad bout of depression. That was probably one of the worst Christmases I ever had. But at the time, I was actually going to college. I was a student and I was going into my sophomore year. And I was dealing with so much depression, it was hard for me to actually keep track, get to class, maintain my assignments. So, knowing me, I wanted a goal, as you could say, something I would strive for, something I would work towards, since I handle goals quite well. So I thought about it. What is something I've always wanted to do, but never tried before? And I came up blank. I didn't really know what to do. But when I actually thought about it, I said, well, what about the things that were knocked off my plate that I was not allowed to do, whether I was not allowed to do it, parents were opposed of it. So I went down that route. What is something my parents would prevent me from doing that I wanted to do? Motorcycling was on the top of that list. I was wanting to do it. And now I felt like I could. I wasn't being restricted by my own parents' philosophies anymore. I could do whatever I wanted. So that was my goal. So to do said goal, I knew I had to save up money. I was living very tight budget and I had to start saving up money because I knew it would take paying for the Motorcycle Safety Foundation course to buying the motorcycle, insuring it, buying gear. I knew it was going to cost money right off the bat. So I started doing what I could to save money. Safe to say, I ate a lot of ramen packs. In about 3 months, I took the Motorcycle Safety Foundation course. And at the time, I went ahead and bought my first motorcycle helmet. Why? Because I was going to motorcycle anyways. I might as well get something that fit my head properly. Yeah, they would provide it, but ew. So I passed that class, as you could say, from the skin of my teeth. Not because that there were issues with some of my skills, it was the speed in which I executed those skills. I didn't feel comfortable doing some things at faster speeds. And the instructor told me that. He's like, I gotta deduct you these points, but in reality, if that's what you feel comfortable doing, do it, because it's still safe. It's just a stupid rule we have to live by. At least he was honest. Now that I had the motorcycle endorsement on my driver's license, it was now time for me to start looking for my first bike. Well, I was deciding what I wanted to do, and a sport bike looked cool, and I thought I would be awesome on it. And I worked up and saved enough to put some money to the bike, but ended up having to finance, which was a mistake, which I'll talk about in another video. But I got my first motorcycle a year after when I said I was going to actually do it. So I managed to do it. Fortunately, right outside my apartment was an empty parking lot. So I spent the first couple of months just driving around that parking lot, just getting used to it. Eventually, I started riding the bike to class and back. But since I lived right next door to the campus, it was super easy to do. I wasn't on the bike very much. My mom and dad moved up to Oklahoma City, and they wanted me to come, but I wanted to finish off one semester. Shortly after they left, my school had a massive accident, got on the newspapers and everything. It was horrible, and unfortunately, I was there to witness it. And I wish I hadn't. It was bad. It was bad. But fortunately, the guy survived. I'll say that. He survived, and a whole lot better off than we thought. But parents started worrying about their kids at the school, so started pulling them out, saying, we don't want them there anymore. So the program was dying. Professors were being fired. So I had no choice but to leave. Dad's like, there's a great school up here. Why don't you come up here? So I agreed. I went ahead and finished my semester, packed a U-Haul truck, went up to Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City is where my writing kind of expanded. I started to, my college was much further away. The streets were, they were crowded streets. It was a city. It wasn't like the little town I was in. It was a real city. So it was a lot trickier. On top of that, there was a lot more like wind issues and things like that. Now, anytime I could ride to college was great because motorcycle parking was more accessible than handicapped, and commuter parking was a tricky. It was hard. Um, Pretty much you had to park at the football field and walk almost what felt like 2 miles to the campus. It was just a lot of people commuting. It was a commuter school, so that would make sense. But I had two challenges there I didn't quite have in my old location. Summers were more brutal. They were really, really hot. While where I came from, they still were very hot. Now you're adding wind with it. When the first time I rode in high winds, I was trying so hard to fight it, and it was scary. So if the winds were too gusty, I didn't ride. Eventually, I started expanding from that, moving from traveling to the school to going on old Route 66 out east and just driving out on old Route 66. And those were some calm, nice days. I liked that a lot. Those were nice. Eventually, I started expanding. Hey, let me find some fellow bikers. And I found a small group, kind of like a monthly meetup group. It was awesome. We'd meet at a kind of a bar slash restaurant and we would chat. There was all kinds of people there. There were various cruisers, Harleys, obviously, a couple of sport bike guys, a couple of touring, um, a bunch of big guys with long beards, and looked intimidating. But in reality, they were teddy bears. Nice guys. So I met with them, had a lot of fun with it. Eventually, the money started getting too much, and I couldn't keep paying for financing. So I talked with a buddy from the group, and he owned a motorcycle shop that would sell my motorcycle for me, and they did. And I paid off the loan that way, had a little extra funds as well. And that was that. I graduated college, I started working, and my job, the nature of my job at the time was 60 to 80 hours a week, 7 days a week. Basically, you go to work, you come home, you sleep, you go back to work. Come home, you go to sleep, you go back to work. There was no life outside of that. That was your life. That went on for like 10 years. And then I started having issues with that. It was a very male dominated field. I wasn't getting some of the better jobs simply because I was a girl. That was just the truth of it. There was no way I could prove it, but I was pretty sure that was the case. And my mom and dad had eventually retired to the Rockies. And when they saw me struggling so much, they said, "Hey, why don't you just come up here? We'll figure it out." And I said, "Okay." Packed up my stuff, moved to the Rockies. Mom and dad sat there for a little bit, helped me figure things out. I thought about it for a second and I realized there are no jobs here that were in my field. None. Or so few that none of them paid anything. I can't live like that. My mom and dad were flippers at the time, so they said, "Hey, just be a real estate agent. We'll help you." So I became a real estate agent. I'll be honest, I sucked at it. Yeah, I sucked at it. Anyways, did that. Went through another big bout of depression because I wasn't getting anything. I didn't really know what I was doing. I'm not a salesman. So I finally decided it's time to go get re-educated. So went back to school. This time to be a teacher. That I can do quite well. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. I'll be a teacher. Which was funny because I wanted to be a teacher in high school, but went away from that because I felt like I didn't have the patience for it. I'll tell you something here, working 10 hours at the old jobs. Oh yeah, I had a lot of patience then. Oh yeah. The kids still test my patience, and it breaks at times. You're a teacher, you know. So I went back to school. Now my schedule wasn't anywhere near as crowded as it was. I could do things again. So I started thinking about, well, I've kept this M on my driver's license everywhere I went. Why don't I try and get back into it? So I did. I looked for a motorcycle, found one, which is the one I currently ride, and paid cash. I wasn't going to be that stupid again. I paid cash. So all I had to pay now per month is her insurance. That's it. Outside of basic maintenance insurance. That, fuel, and insurance. So I started riding her to the campus and back for lessons again. Tried to start a motorcycle meetup group, but kind of flopped. Just didn't really get off the ground, but I did try. But during those times, I found out I was more of a solo rider than a group rider. I kind of like being on my own. I go at my speed. I don't feel pressured. I can do what I want. I can stop where I want. I don't have to appease anyone. So I started riding out based on that. Sometimes I would just pick a direction and go, and then turn around eventually. There was actually a state park nearby. I would go through and drive through the state park because it was real pretty. One thing the Rockies aren't missing at all are scenic routes, which I hope to find you guys some. So if you want to ride those, you can. So eventually I graduated and I got my first teaching job. Great place. Absolutely fantastic place. I love that place. And started riding to work. But riding from my current location to work was a 30-minute ride. And I don't mind commuting, it doesn't bother me any. But I had to commute 30 minutes. So I had to learn to get comfortable with interstate riding. On top of that, I'm getting up before the sun even rises, and it's cold, but when I leave, it's going to be hot. I did a video about that. I did a video about having to drive in chilly mornings and then coming home in hot afternoons. How do you gear up for that? I'll tag it at the end of the video. And then eventually I landed with starting to make these videos. I wanted to do it because I wanted to do something fun, and this is fun. and I'm still enjoying it. So I'm going to keep doing it. Now, I've talked about how I've done all this. The question is why. The initial was a goal to help me out mentally and to do something fun. But after having a motorcycle and riding around, it starts becoming more of a fun thing. People talk about, some people talk about the freedom. With me, it's more of like, to me, it's more of it is a type of freedom. When they talk about freedom, they talk about not being restricted by a cage, not being restricted by so many rules. Um, it's just more thrilling and a lot more fun. So why did I stick with it? Because it's fun. And now I'm expanding this to talking to you guys because now I've been listening, I've been watching a lot of other motorcycle riders um, and said, hey, I want to do that because I think it looks like fun. Okay. And the three biggest I ever watch are Bikes and Beards, obviously, Doodle on a Motorcycle, and Fortnite. So I'll tag them in this video, but go check out their stuff. But hey, so if you've watched me to this point, you're awesome. Love you to death. So now do me a favor, like and subscribe, and tell me in the comments below of your particular story. I'd love to see it. Even if it's another YouTube video or whatever, and you put a tag in there, I'd love to watch it and see it. In the next video, ride safe, guys.